Welcome to another episode of InRange. I'm coming to you today to talk about the Holosun DRS-NV red dot / digital camera / night vision optic. I have this currently on a Desert Tech WLVRN, their most modern bullpup, and I use this in our Cyberpunk division at the most recent High Desert Brutality, which is our division focusing on the most modern equipment. Bullpups, lasers, lights, optics, and I also used it in our After Dark night match where we allow white light, active IR, or passive night vision. This isn't about the match, but I wanted to explain to you where I use this for the testing and the footage you're going to see in this video. Now, I've seen this optic discussed on the internet webs a little bit so far, and to be honest, what I'm seeing seems to be, in my opinion, mostly negative. And I think the reason for that, quite honestly, is that people are trying to jam it into a situation that it wasn't intended to be, and that it actually brings a lot to the table. In fact, this is probably my favorite thingamajig optic that I've bought in years. And I'm going to explain to you why in this video. So, at any rate, when you buy one of these, I looked right now, they're going for $1,000. You get it in this little hard plastic case. It does not have a quick detach, so the case, I guess, is just a neat little thingamajig. And it comes with 2 rechargeable batteries, a proprietary USB cable. We'll get into that more in a minute. A wrench, an adjustment tool. But that's not all that interesting. What's more interesting is how you configure this and what you will use it for. So, to explain more thoroughly, this is a red dot sight, and I have a magnifier behind it. I'll get to that more in a minute. And with this lens open, you look through this like you would normally any red dot sight, and the red dot is superimposed EOTech style reticle, just like it would be with any other red dot sight. The top of this is a digital camera, but also works very well in low light, i.e. a digital night vision camera. So let's go ahead and zoom in on the optic, and I will walk you through the features. And then I'll talk about how I configured it and why I configured it this way, and all the things you can do with this that isn't just a red dot that happens to have some night vision. Okay, there's a lot going on with this, so I'm going to give you a tour of the optic, which normally sounds a little weird, but there's a lot going on here. First of all, this is the battery compartment. It takes 2 rechargeable batteries that come in the box with the unit. Your elevation adjustment. Your windage adjustment. Your brightness settings for your red dot sight. These buttons work only for the red dot sight, and you can do circle dot, EOTech style, circle, or just dot, and of course adjust the brightness both all the way up and down to night vision level settings. But this is the red dot portion. This is the digital camera portion. So with this cover closed, open I should say, you look through this like you would a traditional red dot sight. It is clear back here. Lighting's a little weird. This is clear, it's just a protective cover. You look through this and you get a traditional red dot sight, whether it's EOTech reticle, circle dot, dot, or just circle. And with that open, that's what you get. Now this is the power button to turn on the digital camera. The digital camera then projects an image from the camera onto a lens somewhere between here and here. And in low light or dark conditions, so if you're moving around and it's night, you see the digital camera image. The digital camera image is green in hue and can have its own reticle, or you can use the red dot reticle superimposed on the digital camera image if you prefer the red dot with your quote night vision or digital camera image. There's configuration buttons back here. This is power to turn the camera on. This is digital magnification, 1, 2, 4, and 8x. Brightness settings for the actual image of the overlay. You can brighten that and dim that depending on your conditions. And these are your configuration buttons. The OK button in the middle gets you to a configuration menu where you can set a number of settings. You can turn this to 30 or 60 frames per second. 30 frames per second does better in the lowest light conditions. 60 frames per second, of course, refreshes faster. Additionally, this has internal memory storage. I actually don't know the amount, but it tells you a percentage of how much you've used. And by hitting this button once, you take a photo. Holding it down, you can start recording. So you can record internally from the digital camera to the internal memory while you're shooting, which is a really, really cool feature. Now, this is intended to be used at night. They call it the NV, the night vision. So in low light conditions, as I said, with this lid open, even if it's too dark to see through this will superimpose, and because of the differential between the light of the screen and the light conditions beyond this, you can see the screen. But this is where things get super interesting. You can also use this camera to record during the day. If you turn the camera on and start recording, even with this open, it records even though you can't see the screen. But if you want to see the screen, you just close this. So if you're using the red dot sight during the day, but want to record your shooting, turn this on, hit record. You can just close this to see the screen brief enough to get to the commands. Hit record, open it up, use the red dot sight. You never see the image during the day because it's too bright to see it, but you're recording the whole time. To get the images off of the camera, you have to connect the proprietary USB cable to that interface right there. This is my only real complaint with this optic. This is the proprietary cable. So let's pull that little protective cover off. It's a magnet thing, and it kind of just sticks on. The magnet is not very strong. It does pop off very easily. So you have to make sure it's just sitting in a situation in which it is not going to get bumped. But this is not only your charging cable, it is your data cable. So when you connect this data cable to your computer and then turn on the optic, it mounts like an external drive on your computer, regardless of platform, and you can download the images straight from the internal memory just by drag and drop, whether it's a video or a photo. Really cool feature. I have never ran out of space on this. It has enough to not worry about it. Battery life off of a full charge is 6 hours of active use with the digital camera on. If you're using just the red dot, it's kind of the typical Holosun runs forever sort of deal. So if you're just using this as a red dot, good to go. If you're using the digital camera and the red dot, of course, the battery life is around 6 hours. Now, you'll see I have a magnifier on here, and I mentioned it already has digital zoom. However, digital zoom only affects, of course, the camera image being projected in here. So if you can see the image because the lid is closed or it's night, the digital zoom applies. However, the screen is kind of small, to be honest, and when you're looking at it from the back of the gun, it does look like a little bit like a postage stamp, even though it's quite a clear image. But if you put the magnifier over and have this shut, or it's at night, this just merely magnifies the image you're seeing to your eye. So visibly, this looks like a much bigger screen. You're essentially just magnifying a video screen being projected onto a lens internally, and this will then magnify that times the magnification of the magnifier you're using. So I recommend having a magnifier behind this, even in the digital or / night vision camera mode, because the image is just that much bigger and much easier to see specific details. However, if you're using it as a red dot sight, then this works like a standard magnifier in that it only magnifies what it sees through this clear lens. And so if you're using a red dot sight with a magnifier, this acts like a traditional red dot plus magnifier. So lens closed, low light, magnifies the screen. Lens open, red dot magnifies only the red dot and what you're seeing beyond it, like a traditional system. Now, my experience with this is that this digital camera actually does quite well in very low light conditions. It is digital night vision, and I'm going to do a video about this. I think digital night vision and analog night vision and thermal are just such different things that they really shouldn't be compared to one another. Digital night vision is its own thing, analog night vision is its own thing, and thermal is its own thing. All of them have their specific applications. There's instances in which each and every one of those is better depending on what you're doing. In no light or very poor light conditions, you want to set this to 30 frames per second, but you're going to want to have active IR. Now, remember, active IR, this is a Z-Bolt dual head unit, white and active IR. This is the answer, my friends. I have tried multiple different IR illuminators, including the very expensive Kiji, the Luna, and the Z-Bolt. And what you want is something that's bright enough to cast a big enough light with enough candelas to throw far enough. But the Z-Bolt has this focusable knob in front of you that allows you to change the throw of the beam to bypass objects near you, so you don't get what's called that photonic barrier, where you blind your night vision by illuminating objects close to you when you really want to illuminate objects far away. And you'll see from the footage I'm showing you in this video that in the worst of light conditions, which is what we were dealing with at high desert brutality, no moon, some clouds, absolutely no ambient light whatsoever, this does okay with no light whatsoever. Like, not no light, but almost no light. You could barely move with your naked eye in the conditions we were moving in, and this could still pick up objects and be used as a semi-visibility in the low light. However, the minute I fired off This IR illuminator, which of course is invisible to the human eye, this thing comes to life and it's like shooting in day. Now, this is where I think we're going to get into a topic of why this is different than everything else on the market and why I think the other reviews we've seen don't quite understand it. So let's switch back to my talking head. So let's get into the use case scenarios where this really shines in a way that really no other optic does. Most of the time when you see people talking about night vision, they have some sort of head-mounted monocular or binocular or panos or whatever, and they're using an active IR laser to aim, or they're trying to raise the optic high enough that they can use their head-mounted night vision to do passive through the unit. Passive can be very hard for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is you must have sufficient ambient light that the night vision optic is bright enough to be able to see through the tube, even with the degradation of light transmission through the tube, and to the tube that's the night vision. When I say tube, I mean the red dot, and still perceive what you're trying to aim at without turning any active illumination on. Can be done. The better and more expensive the night vision you have, the more possible it is, but it can be a little weird to try to position your head behind it depending on your particular head-mounted night vision configuration. The reason for passive is twofold. Well, one, you can aim more traditionally, and I will tell you, you can practice a lot and you can get good with an active IR laser where you're trying to superimpose the laser on the target from a non-standard firing position. However, it's harder, and the traditional way of aiming, of course, is to bring your head down on the gun and aim through the optic. And that is where passive can be very useful, as well as, of course, not emitting any IR emissions means that you are technically imperceivable by something else downrange because you're not emitting anything. The minute you emit an IR laser, or a white light for that matter, of course, everything downrange can see where you are. With an IR laser or IR illuminator, though, they have to be able to see active IR to be able to see that. Someone without night vision enhancements, digital or analog, would not see your IR light or laser. Active illumination can be white light without night vision. Active illumination with night vision can be IR. Now, as I said previously, this works quite well, especially if you set it to 30 frames per second in really pretty poor conditions. If you're in any conditions that are a little better than that, urban environment, any ambient light, even a quarter moon, this thing at 30 frames per second works exceptionally well. You can even use it at 60 frames per second if you've got, say, half a moon, a little more ambient light, or are using active IR. Now, what you can't do with this is move with it. I mean, you could, but walking around with your gun like this to try and see where you're moving is not really a really good idea, and that's where head-mounted night vision can be of assistance. However, head-mounted night vision, when you have only a monocle, can really throw you off and be very strange in terms of depth perception, or you can perceive things as differently than they are. Sometimes shadows look like holes. Sometimes holes look like shadows. So what I did while using this at night is I did not use any night vision mounted to my body. I moved through with my traditional Mark I eyeball adjusted pupils for the conditions I was in which I could see that there's a car there, here's a door. I could still move with my traditional human adjusted eyes and even see things on the gun without my one eye getting blown out by the bright light of a night vision monocular. And so that made it quite easy to move and navigate through my environment in a very natural, traditional way. But when I wanted to come up and aim at or see or look at something downrange, that's when I brought the gun up to look through the digital night vision camera and could see, of course, significantly more. If the conditions warranted it, with this Z-Bolt IR illuminator, I would fire that off, tuned properly to bypass close objects to avoid photonic barriers, and this thing turns into looking like it's day. With your active IR and a good IR illuminator, and another video for another day, but let me sing the praises of the Z-Bolt dual head unit. White light and IR all together with a focusable adjust, very bright, good candelas, great throw. This thing rules. But any good IR illuminator, a Kiji as well, or a Luna, or maybe one of the Surefires, will make this pop. So in conditions in which this is struggling, which digital night vision isn't quite up to par with analog or very high-end analog night vision, think of this as 2+ generation when it comes to analog light amplification. When there's enough ambient light that you don't need active IR illumination, you move with your traditional eyeballs, you don't have to worry about your lack of depth perception or one eye being blown out. You aim with this, you can identify, see things downrange, and if it's a target you wish to engage, you can engage it. Think of it like using a weapon light, a white light, as you would with any other firearm, whether it's a pistol or a rifle, without night vision, and you use this the same way, except you use an IR light to illuminate what you're looking at versus a white light, which of course is a huge advantage. One, it doesn't blow your night vision when you fire it off because you can't see the IR beam either. So your night vision, your adjusted pupils for your normal human night vision doesn't get blown out by a white light, but the IR light enhances the camera and makes it so you can see whatever you want to see downrange. So yes, you are aiming at what you were trying to see with your weapon, but that would be no different than if you were using a traditional weapon light. So put it in those parameters. But one of the coolest things that I really liked about this was the fact that the red dot, which works during the day, still works at night. You can brighten or dim that based on these buttons. You can close this lid even during the day, turn on the digital camera, and you can see the image because with this closed, this little dark tunnel here allows you to see it. You can set your settings, hit record, open this, and now you've got a standard red dot with a magnifier behind it for optical magnification, and you can record during the day like a gun cam, which you're seeing here on the video screen right now. This was filmed during the day. It looks awesome. Whew, there's a lot to say about this optic, and hopefully this is interesting. There's lots of configuration you can do with this. There's the red dot sight, which I zeroed traditionally, like I normally would at 50 yards. And then you can have a night vision reticle. There's multiple variants of different kinds of crosshairs and such that you can configure with the rear menu. And to zero the night vision or digital camera reticle, once you've zeroed the red dot, you simply go into this menu, close this, and hit the buttons to get to the adjustment, and just push X and Y until the night vision reticle superimposes directly over the red dot that you've already zeroed, and your night vision reticle is now zeroed too. So you don't have to zero this at night or in weird conditions. You can either just close this to zero it, or do what I recommend, zero the red dot, then close it, and just adjust the reticle to be superimposed over the already existing red dot. You do not have to use the night vision reticle, but I think it's cool to have it on, even if you're filming during the day, because when it's recording, you can see the reticle aiming where the person's aiming. If you have the reticle off, you don't see that. You just see a digital camera image and no aiming reticle, because the camera recording can't record the red dot, but it can record the digital night vision reticle embedded in the camera that you've now zeroed or even slaved to the red dot zero. Woof. So this opens up a lot of possibilities. One, I've already recommended the idea that you can navigate through the natural world even in low light conditions just using your adjusted pupils and not blowing it out with night vision. Using active IR illumination doesn't blow your night vision, so you don't lose your night vision, your natural night vision, when using this to aim. You can also aim traditionally, which is easier to use for most people, myself included. In regards to this, the scores proved it. In the infantry division, which is the night vision division, I actually did very well and placed very high compared to people using just traditional white light. We have found in night conditions people using just white light, while tactically, of course, not as optimal and sound as using IR or night vision, shoot the fastest and the best because they're shooting their gun like they would during day. They turn on the white light, it illuminates this entire bay, they hit the targets, turn the light off, and move, which is the fastest because it's the thing that they're most used to doing with traditional aiming. With this, same thing applies. Bring it up to aim through it, turn on your active IR if you need to, shoot like it's during the day, turn it off, and move. Your night vision stays intact, and your ability to move through your terrain stays intact naturally. But there's more to talk about here that I've never seen anyone else talk about. If you're using the red dot sight, and you're moving through a bright environment, right here I'm in the desert, but you have the digital camera on, you can't see it with this lid open because the ambient light makes it impossible to see the screen. But if I'm moving through this bright environment, I open a door and I go into an extremely dark house or a cave or a dungeon, and the light conditions in there are poor, guess what? You will immediately be able to see the camera image with the red dot superimposed on it because the ambient light conditions have now made it possible to visibly see what the camera is seeing. So that means that you can move from bright light and very low light environments dynamically without having to turn anything on or off, and this camera will just suddenly superimpose in front of your eye, and you can then do what you need to do, and the minute you leave that environment and go back into the bright desert sun, you can't see the camera or digital camera anymore, but you can immediately go back to the red dot. I haven't seen anyone else mention that, and that is a huge feature. Not turning anything on, not having to adjust anything, not having to flip down your night vision, not having to worry about any ambient light harming your analog tubes because it's a digital camera. You can use this during the day ambient light will not harm a digital night vision camera like it will eventually an analog tube. And the ability to move in and out of high or bright environments and dark environments dynamically, and having this adjust automatically to what you need to see to be able to continue to aim and do what you're doing is an incredible feature, not like anything I've ever seen from any other optic. So all of those features combined turns this into, in my opinion, the go-to. I want to put this on every gun I got. I love this thing. And I find that to be interesting because it's so at odds with everything else I've seen so far. For $1,000 retail, you've got a digital camera that can record at day or night. You've got night vision capabilities, passive or active, depending on your lighting, your illumination solution. You've got a red dot that's circle dot, dot, or circle that can be used day or night. The camera can be used day or night, and you can record in all of those conditions and dynamically move through bright light and low light in situations automatically without having to turn anything on or off. It just happens. The only deficiency I can see is I really, really do not like proprietary cables. I get it, it's probably for some reason to like block water from getting into the system, but proprietary cables are bad because you eventually lose a proprietary cable and then you've got no way to charge the darn thing. But for $1,000 to be able to do all that and bring night vision or low light capabilities to any gun you mount it on without any other accessories, this thing is game changing as far as I'm concerned, and it might be a little too far, maybe 25 minutes into the future instead of 20. And as a result, some of these features are being lost on the audience that I think should actually really appreciate them. Trying to wedge new technology into old paradigms is what I see a lot going on. People are used to using traditional analog tubes and doing traditional night vision things, and they try to force this into a traditional role, and in the process they lose all of the advantages and benefits it brings to the table because it's something different. And different and new is scary. This is revolutionary, and we're going to see more of this sort of stuff coming to the market. And once again, Holosun's the one doing it. Now, that sounds like a sponsorship, doesn't it? Well, it sure ain't. Holosun has no contact with InRange, and I have no contact with Holosun. Inevitably, when I do a very positive review, people throw out this shill comment because people only trust negative reviews. But in this instance, I am very excited about this optic. I love it. I want more of them. If I could, I'd put it on every gun I got, but I have a red dot sight on at this point. If nothing more, just to be able to record with it during the day. But all the night vision and all that stuff going with it, even better. So I love it. I highly recommend it. $999 retail as of the recording of the video today. If you don't have night vision or already have night vision but want something to augment night vision mounted to your gun, or just want to record your shooting with a camera mounted gun, a gun cam, this does all that for you, and it's still an excellent red dot sight. So once again, I paid for this with my own money, so this is a very honest and true review. Patreon.com/InRangeTV. If you're already a supporter, we appreciate you so much. You've kept this channel alive for years. Every dollar counts. Please consider it if you can. Like I said, even a dollar makes a difference. The YouTube algorithm is absolutely not favoring InRange content, and long form reviews like this are going the way of the dodo bird. Everybody wants shorts, low information stuff. I just can't do it. I need to do this kind of thing. Bring it out to the match, test it over the weekend, test it at night, provide you the most thorough, thoughtful review I can. And it's people like you supporting the channel that make that possible. Thank you very much. If you can't, do understand, here's another thing you can do. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, although people tell me that doesn't even work anymore. More importantly, share this with your friends on your socials. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. You being the organic algorithm for this content helps us defeat that overwatching, horrible Eye of Sauron algorithm that YouTube just tries to force feed you pablum. So, at the risk of repeating myself, patreon.com/InRangeTV, but most importantly, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching, and I hope this review helps you out in making a decision. I don't think you can go wrong with this thing. I really don't. I think we're going to see a lot of these at brutality matches, especially our night matches, coming up. Stay tuned for more.